IT is not my forte, so thankful that...
Couldn't make it happen without Ralph.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We've been here now for about 2 days, and it's been absolutely unbelievable. So if the next 48 hours is anything like the previous, I think we're going to be in really, really good shape. I do want to again thank Brittany, Leanne, the conference committee. This has just been absolutely unbelievable. I'm still cleaning out sand a little bit in my ears from being on side-by-sides yesterday. But thank you. Conferences get to be this really amazing opportunity to be a catalyst for something, but you normally don't know what that catalyst is when you get here. So what I'd like everybody to do right now, while we're sitting in here as roughly a group of, call it 300 people who are all in this industry together, picture how you want to feel when we leave roughly 48 hours from now. Because likely, what's going to happen is you're going to go right back into the same situation you just came from. The projects that we left are still there. The politics that we left are still there. Our facilities are still there. We still have registration to get through. You may be working on an activity guide. Those things are still going to be there. And that stuff largely looks the exact same. So the difference, ultimately, what we get out of this group is that we get to somehow change. We get to somehow learn in this little window of time together at conference and go back and keep pushing to do what we do. So make that mental picture. I think everybody in here who's attended a conference knows that you get that kind of euphoric, you're amped up, you're ready to get back. The hard thing is hanging on to that. How do we hang on to that? So you may be sitting in the room today and you may actually be feeling like you're on point. You've been making the best decisions that you've been making for a really, really long time. You're leading your communities unbelievably well. You're nailing it with council. Your residents are happy. Your programs are full. Right? You're in a good state. And if that's where you're at right now, we absolutely love that for you. That is an unbelievable mindset to be in if you're a Parks and Recreation professional. You may also be sitting here today and you're not feeling that. You may have actually been here at a conference which we learned 6 months ago. And good job for pulling off 2 back to back. Okay? This may just be built into your annual schedule. I'm a Parks and Rec professional. We have annual conference. I want to support the association. I'm going to go. I need to get my CUs. Got to keep my certs up. I'm CPRP. You have no preconceived ideas about what you want to get here, and that's fine too. I want you all to know that as a Parks and Rec professional, I feel that a lot. There is a cyclical pattern to being in Parks and Recreation. I totally get it. And you may be sitting here right now, and this will be your last conference. And you've decided, like 4 to 5 million other people in this country and millions more, that you're ready to jump into the great resignation, great reinvention, great whatever R word, but this is it. And you've decided that over the past handful of years, Parks and Rec's not where you want to be. We spent an amazing 4 hours with a great group of small community, rural community professionals yesterday, and we heard how hard it was. And we heard how trying it is in Parks and Recreation. And I get that too. And if that's where you're at, and you're looking to go on to be whatever you want to be, we're excited that that gets to happen for you as well. Because everybody in this room should get that opportunity to feel completely fulfilled with what you do and where you work. Okay? So thank you. Thank you for being here.
And as we start today, knowing wherever you are, however you want to spend the next 48 hours, what we hope for you in the next 45 minutes while we're up here is that you feel seen. You feel appreciated. You feel thanked. You feel like you matter. And when you show up every day, and yesterday and tomorrow, it matters. So we can't think of a better way to do that than for you to thank each other. If you have worked in Parks and Recreation over the last 2 to 3 years, would you please stand up? If you're brand new to Parks and Recreation in the last year, would you please stand up? If you're a vendor that supports Parks and Recreation, you should stand up. And if you're the person that knows it's hard, but whatever it is that you do, you keep going back the next day and the next day, and you're willing to dig in at least for this 45 minutes, would you please stand up? We want to thank you. No strings attached. We want to give you this 45 minutes. We want to give you our thanks. We appreciate you. What you're doing matters. Our communities would not be the same without you. Our people would not be the same. That's our thank you to you. We'd actually also like you to turn to somebody around you, and we'd like you to thank them. 15 or 20 seconds. Tell them thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for sitting up here.
I love that.
Good job.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome, awesome. And thank you for doing that. I'd like to introduce maybe one of the most amazing professionals that and a friend, and a confidant, and somebody that I've had the pleasure of literally growing up with in the Parks and Recreation industry, Farrell Buller. I've known Farrell for about 20 years when we both started off in neighboring communities. And I've known Farrell to be one of the most intelligent, progressive, caring leaders in the Parks and Recreation industry. She's a fantastic mother. She's a fantastic spouse. She's an amazing leader. And she's the person that I get to look to every day to make me a better Parks and Recreation professional. Our families now know each other really well. Our spouses know each other. Our kids know each other. But I'd like to introduce you and just tell you what a privilege it is for me to get to know this person, Farrell Buller.
And then there's Patrick Hammer. Just kidding. You'll look around this room and you'll have a ton of acquaintances if you stay in this profession. You'll have a couple of people that make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. That's good. Keeps you real, keeps you humble. And then you'll have a couple of people that become your people. They'll be your people. They'll be your people for life. They'll be your best friends. They'll challenge you. They'll tell you when you need to sit down. They'll also help pick you back up. I'm so thankful that Patrick Hammer is one of my people. Patrick Hammer, I have the opportunity to see Patrick Hammer continually inspire Parks and Recreation professionals. And he does it in this manner. He thinks of the thing, and then he sits down and he studies it. And he thinks about how it can be better. And then he thinks who he can influence. I haven't seen a more dedicated Parks and Recreation professional in Colorado that wants to continually pour in to the next group of leaders, the 18-somethings, 18-year-old somethings, the 25-year-old somethings, the 30-year-old somethings. I'm not going to age us too much more, but my point is he'll continually do that. Just yesterday we were talking about how on a national level emergency management planning could be done better. Patrick simplified it on the way home from Zion Park last night in a manner I've never heard. That's Patrick Hammer. Every day he'll show up and he'll do that. So thank you for being up here with me, buddy.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay.
And as we get started today, and as we have contemplated our time with you this morning over the last several months, talking with Brittany and hearing like, what is it that you want to have happen today? Talking with the conference committee and interviewing with some of your staff, we really started to think about this idea of where Utah professionals have been, where they're going. And we did take in the idea and the whole concept of the comeback stronger than the setback, right? Which led us to this realization that what's been happening in Parks and Recreation over the last 2 years is that there hasn't been a break. Parks and Recreation used to be really seasonal, right? You used to know when you were going to have that 2 or 3 month gap, no matter what your position was. It didn't happen the last 2 years. It all just kept going, right? There were changes all the time. New rules, new policy, new mandates, whatever it was, continued to happen. So then we started thinking about this idea of like, wow, time for a little spring cleaning. It's March, right? Let's start to clean out that clutter. Let's start to remove those things and just breathe for a second. What we've seen nationally, I have the fortune of working with people nationally now in Parks and Recreation. And what we've seen are Parks and Recreation professionals show up to do Parks and Recreation right? I know there's a handful of you that helped get food from the food bank to provide meals for your community. There's professionals that were running warming huts down in Texas when they had snow and floods earlier this year. There's professionals that have all of a sudden become healthcare professionals and run COVID testing sites, right? There's professionals that are in the middle of diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations like never before, trying to learn and provide at the same time. The list goes on. I could probably name 20 things. You could probably name 30. So this idea of having to come back, feeling stronger, doing a little spring cleaning, brought us to this idea today that you're going to see, and it's thrive. We want you to thrive. We want you to feel great, right? We want you to see this picture and go, wow, that's stained glass with the lights on. Stained glass is cool in the dark, right? It's fine. Stained glass with the lights on, that's kind of thriving. This outfit is existing. Just kidding. This outfit is thriving, right?
That's fair.
That's fair. Thank you.
That works.
Thank you, Bronco. So that's what we're doing today. Existing and thriving.
This existing outfit can research some stuff, though. Okay, so let's talk about my outfit for a second, apparently. What existing feels like for me as a Parks and Recreation professional, and I don't know if you all, maybe I've said this literally like 100 times, and my wife will kind of roll her eyes, is I don't know if you've ever gotten to the end of a day and you've said, oh my gosh, I was so busy and I actually didn't accomplish anything that I set out to do. That to me is existing, okay? You may roll into your office, your facility, gym, wherever, your work truck, office out of a service center, and you open your email, For whatever reason, I think we've all started to train ourselves that for whatever that is, that email gets to be the first thing we look at in the morning. And we're hoping that there's something in the email that wasn't there the day before. It's an interesting way to start out the day, if you think about it. Then you may get up and you may go say hi to some coworkers. You may do like your small office talk. Maybe you've got a snack. Maybe you still like to read the paper. If you're like me, you've oversubscribed to like articles that you think will be like really insightful, so you bump around for a little bit and you read those. And then you probably have phone calls, meetings. You don't know why you're in these meetings anymore. And guilty, you've probably set some up and you don't know why you set them up, but you thought they were important at the time. And then it's about lunchtime, so you go do lunch, and then you rinse and repeat in the afternoon. That starts to feel like existing to me. Like I'm an analogy person. And one of my favorite analogies is this idea of getting to be a thermometer versus a thermostat. And you've probably heard it. But the thermometer is just this thing that reacts to what the conditions are. You put it in hot water, the thermometer goes up. You put it in cold water, the thermometer just goes right back down. It's not programmed to do anything but react to its environment. Thermostat, on the other hand, you roll it up, it's going to get hotter. You roll it down, and it's going to get colder. Right? It's in control more so than the thermometer. When I'm feeling like I'm existing in Parks and Recreation, I've literally had this in my head where I just feel like I'm that thermometer. Citizen's mad. I'm going to go up. I get a couple minutes to think. I'm going to go back down. I'm in very little control of what I'm doing as a Parks and Recreation professional. That's what existing feels like. The other one that, as we were researching this out, I've got 2 kids. I have a 14 and a 10-year-old. And I will watch those kids go to my refrigerator time and time and time again, hoping that food is in there that wasn't there before. And they know we haven't gone to the grocery store to get it. I'm like, well, that's existing. It's okay. They're not hurt. It's not good or bad. It's completely useless. They do it, though. And then my wife calls me out because I'll do it. What's in there? There's an amazing article that my outfit and I researched. That was awesome. That was a good one. It was pre-COVID, so it was about 2018, 2019. It was the Harvard Business Review. And it talked about motivation where you work, and it put it very simply into 3 banks. And it was career, community, and cause. Career being this state of like, you're actually getting some fulfillment, in what you do, okay? You're not just doing this means to an end job where every 2 weeks you're hoping your digital bank account like just rolls up. You have a skill set that matches the skill set of where you work, and together those 2 things get to combine, and you make something that benefits everybody, okay? You're not just clocking in and clocking out. That's not motivating. Okay, the second one is community. You get to show up at work and you genuinely enjoy the relationships that you have with the people that you work with. There's camaraderie there. There's good times there. There's bad times there. But in this unbelievable amount of time that we spend together, working together, there's a meaningful relationship there. And it's twofold in Parks and Recreation because we also get the ability to interact with our community. So we get to win on that one. Okay? And this last one is cause. And cause truly is that you are doing something that is bigger than yourself. You're doing something that ultimately is making this amazing round ball of like 7 billion people better. And think of how powerful that is, okay? When I'm starting to feel like this, I'm not actively pushing forward in any one of those, okay? That's what existing to me feels like in Parks and Recreation. It's an unbelievably easy thing to find yourself in. So if this is existing, and Farrell's outfit is thriving, there we go. Farrell, what's thriving look like?
You know, you said I could throw stuff in, right? So there we go. Thriving. Thriving to me, to go along with your 3 C words, cause, community, career, is curiosity. When you're in thriving, you're curious. Like, what's about to happen? What do I get to do? How can I help make something better? What's actually going on with those employees? When you get to be curious, you're designing your day. You're designing your life. When you get to be curious, you're learning. You're taking information in. When you get to be curious and you have that mindset, you get to try stuff. I say often, I have a lot of ideas, and not all of them are good. I would warn my staff often, this could be one of those, so I need somebody to help balance me, but being curious kind of is freeing, right? The other thing with thriving that I was thinking of was about committing. Making a commitment that you want to be curious. Making a commitment that you want to thrive. Making a commitment that you want your life to matter. It is not easy. The last couple of years have helped prove that. When Patrick and I were working together, and in March of 2020, and the world changed, as I say, within a few months we realized there was a little bit of gray to the rules of being around your coworkers. I know things that are black and white. I'm like, yeah, if it's legal, I'll do black and white. But really, I love gray. I do love gray. So what we decided is we still needed to commit to keeping this town together. I was the deputy city manager at the time. Patrick was the Parks and Recreation director. And there were 6 members on our team. And lo and behold, you could get together with people with groups less than 10. Well, that was gray to me. Okay, 6. 6 is less than 10. So we made a commitment to continue to build each other up and work with each other. We did things like yoga outside in my backyard. I don't do yoga, but thankfully Patrick does. We did things like painting. We did things like hiking. We found a way to keep the town, we committed to finding a way to keep the town moving forward, our staff moving forward, and us moving forward. We worked every day to find ways to thrive. It made a difference. It'll make a difference for you if you decide to commit as well.
So what we're going to do is a little bit of an activity that Farrell would put us through. And it was this really kind of amazing, really quick activity that helped kind of flesh out and clean out whenever we were existing. And I will also tell you, build those bonds with your coworkers to where you can call somebody out and get them out of existing, okay? And we're gonna walk through that a little bit.
And you get to do it
right
too.
now.
Aren't you
Yeah.
excited?
So
Yeah!
here we go.
All right, back row. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm gonna have you grab 2 objects and put 1 in each hand. It could be a water bottle, it could be a pen, it could be a bracelet, whatever. So 2 objects, 1 in each hand. And if you don't have anything for one hand, just make a fist so you can like feel your fingers inside your fist. It is a Parks and Recreation conference. You knew we had to do an activity, right? Okay. Okay, so here's what you're gonna do. Don't touch anybody, that's weird. I'm just gonna say that. So if you wanna close your eyes, close your eyes. Don't touch anybody, don't breathe on anybody. All right. I'm gonna ask you to think. This is like a self thing. This is your time, right? This is your choice in how you do this activity. So Patrick's going to demonstrate for you. So,
Here we go.
all right. So I'm going to have you lean to the left. Close your eyes if you want, or if not, just, sit comfortable. Lean to the left. And I want you to think about 1 year ago. I want you to think about March of 2021. What was happening in your life? I want you to lean to the right, and I want you to think about March 2023, 1 year from now. What are you excited about? What do you want to happen in 1 year from now? What's amazing and so incredible, you can't wait to talk about it and to experience it. And I want you to lean to the left again. And I want you to think about 1 month ago, February 2022. What was happening a month ago? What was on your mind? What have you already been through? And you're going to lean to the right again. And you're going to think about 1 month from now, April 2022. What's going to happen a month from now? I want you to lean to the left one more time. And I want you to think about 2 days ago. I want you to think about Sunday. What was going on Sunday? What were you thinking about Sunday? And I'm going to have you lean to the right one more time. And you're going to think about 2 days from now, Thursday, 48 hours from now, conference is over. What is so exciting about Thursday? What's incredible about Thursday? And then I'm going to have you sit in the middle, and you're going to think about today. What do you want to have happen in your life today? What are you going to do today to be in thriving? What are you going to do today to be your best self? So Patrick, I'm going to ask you to share for a second. What did you think about when you were leaning left?
Well, to be honest and to be candid, this is literally probably the 10th time that I've done this activity, and it is different every time you do it. And I would, again, like to give credit to Farrell, because this quick little technique actually kept an entire town in complete chaos with COVID moving forward. So I know it probably seemed a little hokey and silly, but it's an incredibly powerful mindset tool. Every time I do this, and I kind of, for me, go left, there's so much uncertainty. And this idea that what we kept thinking was going to happen just sometimes didn't come to fruition. And it was exhausting. It was tiring. You hit it earlier that this gap that we used to get in parks and recreation truly was gone. I've been doing this for 20 years. There was no more seasonality. I look at how much my role as a director and as a parks and recreation professional evolved.
And what about leaning right? What about going forward?
One, there was an incredible amount of pride because you got to look and see where you just came from. Carl, we had a great conversation yesterday, and you said you're really proud of what you were able to knock off your master plan list. I love that. I feel that sense of pride when I get to look forward at what we completed. and then just unbridled optimism.
Cool. So here's what I'm going to have you do. Thank you for sharing. Think about your leaning left. What's still sitting around that you really don't need anymore? You don't need to take it into the rest of today. You don't need to take it till Thursday. You don't need to take it till April. And you certainly don't need to take it a year from now forward. What is that? You have a blank piece of paper on your chair or around you. Grab this blank piece of paper. I want you to write down, what is it that is clutter? What needs to be cleaned out of your brain? What do you want to get rid of? I want you to write down a word, a sentence, I don't know, emoji, whatever you want. What are you willing to let go of so you can move forward? And once you write that down, Brittany promised there were some awesome student volunteers that would help at the end of this. Okay. Once you write that down, I want you to crumple this up. This is what you're cleaning out of your head today. And then I want you to actually throw it towards an aisle, just or a person, no, I'm just kidding. Huck it out of here, get rid of it, be done with it. You don't need that anymore. What you should have left is possibility. I should have given that group 10 pieces of paper. That is awesome. What you should have left is opportunity. What you should have left is a clean slate, right? What you should have left is this awesomely beautiful picture that you get to create.
Okay. I'm sure we've got some facility staff now questioning our decisions. So as Farrell mentioned earlier, when we heard this amazing, that the comeback gets to be greater than our setback and spring cleaning, and we reflected back on kind of our experience in Erie Parks and Recreation in the town of Erie. We said, what does a meaningful, quick, easy, you can remember it, 4 steps that can get you not dressing like me and dressing like Farrell. That is scary. And what we wanted to kind of go over is what we think could be 4 effective spring cleaning tips that'll ultimately be that catalyst where you get to move into thriving more often than not. Remember, that's an incredibly, incredibly powerful mindset. All right, so spring cleaning tip number 1 is drop bad and unwanted habits. And I don't know what this is for you all. Humans, right, we're incredibly fascinating creatures in that we will take the path of least resistance as much as we possibly can. And because of that, you get to develop these really interesting habits, whether you know it or not. And for me, one of my terrible habits has become I've completely blurred the lines between what's work and what's not work, and when I'm supposed to be at work and when I should be at work. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm somewhat controlled by the bleeps and buzzes and alerts that come from my phone or from my email, which is messaging that I actually have no control over. And I'll get to the end of the day and my brain doesn't know that it's 5 o'clock, My phone chirps at 5:01. I'm preconditioned now all day to assume that there's some piece of information that's important on my phone. It's a terrible habit. It wasn't always like that. But this is now the norm for me and maybe for you all. And it's absolutely stopped me more often than not from being in a state of thriving and creativity. And even today, I had to power my phone off, put it in my bag, and put it in another room. That's how used to technology I've become, and I feel it. It's actually absolutely a detriment. You know, maybe for you, over the last couple of years, you've gotten out of a workout routine. Maybe you're starting to feel a little bit more isolated. Maybe you're starting to pick up characteristics where you said, well, I wasn't always like that. Maybe you're starting to fall into this thought process like most things in the world are telling us to be. It's either got to be up or down or right or left or, you know, whatever. So, well, I'm not a polarizing person. I tend to kind of be open-minded, and I'm starting to lose track of that. Whatever those habits are for you, identify those habits, and just like the piece of paper, crumble them up and throw them away, okay? So spring cleaning tip number 1 is really identifying and dropping those bad and unwanted habits that you've picked up that are truly stopping you from thriving.
And spring cleaning tip number 2 is to reclaim your time. What are you doing with your day, all day, every day? We all have 24 hours, right? We all have work. We all have responsibilities outside of work. We all have the extra things that we'd really like to fit in because they fill us up. So how are you really spending your time? Your time and time freedom and what you do with it is kind of what gets you through all of it, right? So they say that you become the summation of the 5 people that you spend the most time with in your life. Maybe it's 10 people, maybe it's 2, I don't know. But who are you spending your time with? Who's filling you back up? Who are you filling up? When I think about time, I think about this idea of designing my day, designing my week. When I think about time, I think it's like the greatest gift that we have. When I think about time, I think about how we get to choose. How we get to choose. So by reclaiming your time, by designing your days, by determining, here's what's happening, here's who I'm going to be, here's who I'm putting myself around, it will help you spring clean out that clutter and that extra stuff that doesn't really matter.
Okay, love it. Hopefully what you're starting to kind of pick up is we've intentionally kind of talked about letting go of something and building something up with the spring cleaning tips. And the next one, spring cleaning tip 3, is this idea of forgive and forget. And to be real candid and honest with you all, this one is a hard one. This one's a hard one for me, forgive and forget. And as we were talking through this over the last several months, what became really, really apparent is forgive and forget's twofold. Maybe you've had a run-in with a coworker, maybe your boss is driving you nuts. Maybe you've started to build up animosity because your community members are now the subject matter expert because Twitter and the internet says they get to be. And they love to tell you that they're the subject matter expert all the time, despite the effort you've put into it. And that's starting to build up these kind of negative thoughts and opinions, right? So there's this outward idea of embracing forgiveness. And what I think is interesting about this is if we did a quick straw poll, and we're like, oh, who's a forgiving person? I think almost everybody in the room would probably be like, yeah, I'm pretty forgiving. The reality is that that's a lot harder than it sounds. Okay, so there's this outward idea of forgiveness, and I will tell you, having worked with somebody for 20 some years, we have wildly different opinions. We've had to get to the point of embracing a lot of forgiveness as we're creative talking through stuff. Okay? I have employees that have absolutely driven me crazy. I've had employees consistently not show up to work. We talked about that. We talked about that yesterday. And the desperation that I need from those employees to continue to show up, even though I'm starting to kind of build up this negative emotion. What forgive and forget also means is forgiving and forgetting items that are kind of within yourself. And we've now talked to a ton of parks and recreation professionals from all over, and it's amazing how quickly you can pick up on how hardwired we are to serve other people. It's like in our most core DNA to want to give and give and give and make other people happy and create experience for other people. And I think the flip side of that is we're incredibly hard on ourselves when that doesn't go well. And we put undue stress on ourselves when we feel like we fall short of that. So this idea of forgive and forget is really twofold. We came across this really amazing quote that, like, you can't grasp for anything new when you're holding on to any of the clutter of the past, right? So it's like a twofold kind of activity. And I think that is true in parks and recreation more so now than ever. We cannot actively plan for anything great if we're going to choose to kind of hang on to this weird, crazy animosity, tension with our communities, this lack of balance, okay? So spring cleaning tip number 3 is forgive and forget. Figure out how to let go and grasp. You can't do both, okay? We can't take all that on. So
that reminds me of when they say, oh, my day was so bad, da, 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 right? You hear that story, and then someone's like, well, was your whole day bad, or did you just have one bad phone call? Right? Was your whole day bad, or was it just 10 minutes? I mean, come on. So creating your personal goals. I'm sure everybody in here, well, okay, most people in here will have some type of performance review, right? There's goals on there. Do a good job, check the goal, get whatever. Those aren't the goals that I'm talking about. Creating personal goals, I think, is about like creating goals around who you are as a human, who you are as a person, not because somebody's judging you and you've checked the box. I get that. I get there's a level of importance to that. There's a level of accountability. I'm not dismissing that, but I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about are your personal goals, who you are as a person. What are your values? What's in your DNA? What do you really stand for? If you're having a really bad day, before you turn and blame that bad day on somebody else, I would encourage you to first say, wow, which value of mine is getting squished right now? What is making this not feel good to me? Which personal value is not lining up right now? What's actually going on with me right here? My goals, myself. The analogy that I like to use that, gosh, this has stuck with me for 10 plus years is this idea that if your life is happening and you get on the balcony and you watch your life happen, right? So you just get a little bit of a different perspective. Is that the picture you want to see of yourself? If I'm my future self, right? If I'm a year from now, am I ecstatic about what's going on and what I'm seeing? Am I having the right conversation in my head about what I really need to be doing with my personal goals? I hope you have personal goals that's a year from now. I hope you have a personal goal that's 5 years from now. I hope you have a personal goal that's for Thursday. You have this chance, right? You've been given this opportunity at this conference to use it however you want. And we really want this for you. Like, really, really, we want this for you.
Okay. Chances are you've got a ton of spring cleaning tips that we haven't even thought of. But what this ultimately boils down to is, as Farrell mentioned, starting to create this mindset that you actually get to choose this color stained glass more often than choosing to look at the stained glass without the lights on in the background or the sunshine in the background. And I have one of my biggest parks and recreation mentors told me this. This was several years ago, and it was the most black and white way I'd ever heard how to find motivation. And I remember he told me, and the context of the conversation was like, I was like, man, you bring energy to this every day. And he said, you know what that is? I wake up every day, and he's like, I know that we're going to go toe to toe with people who will make profit off of human trafficking. We will go toe to toe with people that will profit off of selling drugs into our community. We will go toe to toe with people whose intentions are the exact opposite of what our intentions are. And he said, yes, that is my motivation every day. And that stuck with me every day. Regardless of what community you're in, you are actively in this place of trying to make your community better against forces that are ultimately trying to make your community worse. That's kind of human nature. So it becomes this desire to be in a state of thriving as opposed to being in existing. It really is your choice. And as parks and recreation professionals, I think we've got the leg up because we have the platform to do it. We have access to people. For the most part, we have really, really positive intentions. We're a room full of 300 people right now who are hardwired to serve and make things better for somebody else. But we're also not susceptible to falling into a state of just existing over thriving. And I get it, as per my dress code today. Unbelievable. That was a good one.
So as we wrap up with you today, I want you to take out your other piece of paper and your sticky. And, you know, while Patrick's reading Harvard Business Review, I'm looking stuff up on LinkedIn. That's one of our differences. And I saw this really cool thing on LinkedIn. I thought it was really cool. And we started thinking about having a comeback, feeling really strong, right? Cleaning out the clutter, and then thriving. And what I want you to do is think to yourself, what do you do when you're in thriving? And when I say that, what I mean is, like, what do you really do? Like, in 5 words or less, or maybe 6. Patrick needs 6. It's okay. I'm gray. What do you really do? What do you really do that matters? I'm not talking about the 10-page job description that you have. I'm talking about what you really do. And we've had the opportunity to work on this over time. Patrick, what is your 5 words of what you do? 6 words.
My 5 is uniting voices and vision to build community. That's it. As a Parks and Rec director, it boils down to that.
Unite voices and vision to build community.
That's it.
Okay.
That's my 5.
And what's the one you said yesterday if people didn't have one?
We were chatting in our small communities group yesterday, And we were talking about if somebody came up to you on the street and said, "What do you do?" And you said, "Oh, I actually get to change people's lives for the better." As opposed to, "Well, I work in municipal parks and recreation." Think of the difference in that phrasing. Think of how powerful that is if you actually led with, "Oh, I actually get to change people's lives for the better. That's what I get to do."
So I'm telling you that in case you don't have one today and you need one. I mean, you get to create whatever you want. My 5 is create opportunities, purpose-driven leaders. That's it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to write ours down. I'm going to ask you to write yours down. And what you're going to do with your sticky, with your Thrive vision, with yourself, is you're going to put it on that awesome poster in the back. So whenever you're ready, just go stick it back there and come back to your seat.
I'm excited. Okay, so we're about out of time. Again, I can't tell you how much we actually get the honor and privilege of getting to do this with other parks and recreation professionals. And you all have just been unbelievably welcoming in Utah from the second we landed. But take that with you. Take your 5 words with you. Occupy that space of thriving more often than not. And just remember what we do as parks and recreation professionals is unbelievably important. And if you're sitting in this room and you're still not quite sure that what you do matters, take quick stock in what you provide for your communities, because we are baby showers, we're the first swim lesson, we're somebody's first goal on a soccer field, we're wedding venues. Okay? If you're like my organization, you have senior pictures every year in your parks. You double up as city council venues. Maybe you have council meeting in your facilities all the time. And maybe you manage a cemetery, and your parks and grounds crew is part of the end-of-life experience for people, okay? So for 1 second, you're going to question whether what we do is important. Take stock in what your organizations provide, and the fact that we as Parks and Rec are here at the beginning, and we as Parks and Rec get to be here all the way at the end, and it's people just like you that get to make that happen. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of conference. It's been an absolute honor. It means the world to us to get to be here, so thank you. Have a good rest of your conference.